How's it going, guys? It's Ricky with TechBud Solutions. I apologize if the quality of this video isn't the best. I'm going live in my parents' house and their Wi-Fi necessarily isn't the best. I guess that's something that we have in common, right? So I just wanted to make a quick video on why I think it's so important on buying a stock on a dip. It's something that you guys hear me talk about numerous times on, chasing red stocks, because once they see huge drops, they tend to bounce back up to where they were, right? To their old, in a sense, support, now becoming a new resistance. So I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see a perfect example of this. And no way am I trying to say, you guys should be trading any stocks that I'm analyzing or anything like that. It's really just me sharing my whole thought process and kind of what's led to my success. It's not leading to my success today, but that's the whole point of this group. What I mean by that is I got into JNUG. I had to cut my losses at 1884. I got in at 1893. So I cut my losses at about 9%. Nothing crazy. Again, it's an $18 stock, so I lost a little bit under like 0.5%, and it was because of that being an old support. So I'm gonna just start sharing my screen before I just going off on the tangent. And I hope you guys enjoy. If you guys have any questions, the best way to reach out to me is to reach out to me through the TechBud Solutions group chat to direct message me. And if you guys aren't a part of that already, the link is provided for you down below. It's a free networking group that you can join. It's over 20,000 members now worldwide. Once you get accepted to the Facebook TechBud Solutions platform, again, a free networking platform, the links on the top pinned post will give you access to all the series of group chats that we have available. So I hope to see you guys there. Let me go ahead and start sharing my screen, and then we can go from there. So this is what I'm talking about. JNUG is actually already bouncing, and this is why I find these stocks to be so profitable. In no way am I saying that you guys should ever, trade anything that I'm saying. So I talked about JNUG within our TechBud Solutions group chat, and simply what I talked about was like, I made the mistake of buying in too early, and don't let that be your mistake, right? Or don't let that be, in a sense, let that be something that you can almost benefit from, right? So let's see if I say right here. No. Yeah, right here. So remember to catch it on the dip. I made the mistake of getting into too early. This is time now for those that see potential to buy at the dip. Regardless of what it is that you're choosing to invest in, the reason I say buying at the dip. So JNUG performing a 2-day analysis with this specific stock, even just a 3-day analysis. So let me go a little bit further. I'm not too sure why it's not branching off. There we go. Okay, so JNUG within the past 5 days has held above $18, and that's why I found this to be such a safe trade. I ended up getting in at 1893, thinking that I can come back and sell anything above $18. I was actually planning on selling at 1860 because that was the old, support, which is now the new resistance. Now JNUG is actually climbing and rising like crazy. So what does that mean? Well, that means the inverse ETF like JDST is most likely taking a pretty heavy dip. So it hit highs of 78.47, and now it's already down pretty much $1. And that's the whole point of these. I mean, you have to be quick, you have to be smart. And how is it that you do that? Well, you don't do what I did today. I got in a little bit too early, but the thing that I did good, again, talking about mistakes, about my mistakes, and talking about my best practice. What I did good, what I know I did good today was I saw and I waited for signs of upward momentum. The stock that I traded was JNUG, and I sent out the alert on when I decided to jump on in. And this is pretty much it. So I decided to jump on in because of these bounces that it was having at 782. It would go up, come back down, and the bounce, in a sense, the bounce, it was showing signs of upward momentum. The only thing that I didn't take into consideration is that it had a really strong resistance at $18, and due to that, if it flatlines on the resistance line and doesn't break above the resistance of $18, then that's a very common trend where then we start seeing a downward trend. And it did just that. That was my mistake, my area of opportunity. But what I did good was that I cut losses, right below the support. So I knew the support previously was at 1782, and I cut my losses right below that. And what I mean by that is, if that's the support and I buy in at a certain resistance, above the support, because I identify, 1782 as my support, then I have to create a plan every single time I trade before I jump on in. And what I mean by that is I decided to jump on in at, what is this? Well, I apologize, 17. I jumped on in at 1780. What was I saying? I was saying 18. I apologize. I jumped on in at 1793. And then cutting my losses right below the support. And I was going to lock in my profits at the old resistance, which is where I determined, let's see if I can zoom on out enough. The old resistance of being right here. Whoa. There we go. My goodness. So the old support that it had right here about 1850 to 1860 is where I identified the support to be. So because that was an old support, I identified that to be a new resistance. And it came down just to that, a very simple analysis. And I felt that was very realistic for the day. Although it was seeing a consistent drop, closing yesterday at about like 1920 and hitting highs of about 1964. This was aftermarket and pre-market hours. And then seeing a huge downward trend. This is why I find it so important to wait for the bounce, buy at the dip. Again, I made the mistake of jumping in too early, cutting my losses. Am I going to only, nag about that and wish the worst on everyone else? Well, the whole point of this group that I started within Talkbot Solutions is to share best practice and to share mistakes. And I did just that right when I got on in and I knew that I was going to cut my losses. I said, due to my mistake of getting in a little bit too early, this is where it comes down to taking a step back, analyzing, and seeing where JNUG is going to bounce. If you see that JNUG has potential within the past 10 days, right? It saw an upward trend, hit a resistance, and it had a solid support at $18. Now it broke below that support, but understanding that it could bounce, right? It can bounce back to where it was. Understanding that, it came from lows of 711, right? 1711 to highs of right now of like 1743. So that margin of profit, let's see if I can calculate that. That margin of profit that it's already built is about 2.21%. Again, you need 2.23% for this $1,000 challenge that we have within Talkbot Solutions. But realistically, the whole purpose of this is to understand that this is why not only should you be scared of cutting losses, or you shouldn't be scared of cutting losses, but this is why when you cut losses short, like how I did at less than 0.5%, that I take a step back, I wait for the bounce, I wait for the graph, and for my analysis to make sense that it actually bounced at 1711, and now it's seeing an upward trend. So as it starts seeing an upward upward momentum, then that's where I can determine that okay, well, JNUG is now it identified its new support at 1711. It's starting to see an upward trend. The old support was about at 1782. So that's going to most likely be the new resistance. It's also seeing a new resistance at 1750, which is understandable. So that margin of profit, again, is about your 2.3%. And the support is at 1711. So what my plan is, after it bounces at wherever it ends up bouncing, right? So it bounced at 1711. I'll buy in at 1720. I'll lock in profits anything above 1750, and I'll cut losses anything below 1711. Again, it comes down to making sense of your trades and understanding that just because a stock took a huge dip doesn't mean it broke support. Oh no, okay, let me leave that alone and let me just put that aside. But what you don't do is I'm gonna follow up with this exact ETF, JNUG, right? And mark my words. You guys can follow up with a video if you guys don't want to subscribe. You guys don't have to. But pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about, this is not a penny stock, right? This is an ETF, a gold-based ETF. So when our economy does good, JNUG does bad, or does, sees a downward trend. When our economy does bad, JNUG sees an upward trend. And JDST, the inverse ETF, does just the opposite of whatever JNUG does. So this is why I find it so important to not only, cut losses short, but to take a step back, analyze, wait for the dip, wait for the bounce. That's always something that we talk about. Set up a plan and stick to it, regardless of that you just took a loss at that same exact trade. Or obviously, if you have Robinhood, they might not allow you to jump back in on a stock that you already traded because it might count as 2 or 3 day trades. But again, the whole point of if you guys see value in this, and if you guys don't have to trade, but what I want you guys to see is next time you trade a kind of stock, next time you trade an ETF, something similar to JNUG, and it breaks the support and sees a huge downward trend, just like this one did after it broke the support at 1780 and dropped all the way to 1711, and everyone was so scared, they're called panic sellers, that you cut losses short. So now all you're going to do as a smart investor is wait for the bounce. As it starts showing signs of upward trend, you buy and you trade stocks that see upward momentum. That should be, in a sense, second nature, right? You shouldn't want to throw money into something that sees a downward trend or try to average down. You should be averaging up, right? Buying and throwing more money into something that is rising in value. So what I want you to do, even just mentally, is when there's a huge drop, identify the support. Identify the support just like JNUG was at 1711. And see where it ends up playing out. And within that day, if it ended up bouncing back to where it was before. And what that did is it built this margin of profit. So from 1711 back to where it was at 1784, simply analyzing that. Let's see if from the 1711, if it goes back to where it was before at about 1790, that's 4.41% profit. Again, not an enormous amount of profit. But when we're talking about the power of compounding interest, and we're talking about doing this on the daily, right, as day traders, and just getting in and getting out, but doing it, in the smart way and locking in profits consistently and setting up a plan for success and minimizing loss and promoting growth, you're going to see that a majority of the times when these stocks see huge drops, if you properly identify the bounce, if you properly see that, okay, this is the support and it started seeing an upward trend, I would have gotten in. Again, you don't have to. I would have gotten in 5 cents, 10 cents above where it bounced. And then where did it, peak out at? Where did it go back to? Did it go back to where it was right before it took that drop? And just do that for me. I want you guys to comment down below if this makes sense to you. And if not, I'll really try my best to answer some of your guys' questions within this video, because I want to make sure that it makes sense to you guys. If it doesn't make sense to you, then forget what it is that I'm saying. But this is why I find it so important to buy at the dip, but not at the lowest point. You buy when it starts seeing signs of upward momentum, because if you're trying to buy at the lowest price, then you're kind of just hoping for the best. Make sure the graph, and make sure when you're analyzing a stock, it's starting to show signs of upward momentum, and create a plan and stick to it. That's the really important thing. Is yes, you might stop loss out. Yes, you might lose a little bit more money, but you're an investor. This is the whole point that you're seeing such a high reward, is because you're taking risk. But it's about how you calculate risk and how you manage it is what will lead to your success. If you can manage risk and make sure that your losses are always less than your profits, then you'll always be green. You'll always see consistent growth. But it comes down to you. People always tell me, and there was a comment asking, where is it that I cut my losses? And I told them right below the support where I identified it at 1784. And why did I do that? Well, that's because I identified that as a support, and if it broke that, then that meant it was breaking that support and gonna go down to previous support, and I didn't want to write it all the way down. And did I do something that was wrong? Maybe to some people, but to me as an investor, I find that as something that's led to my success, cutting losses short and locking in profits. And I don't lock in, always 10, 15, 20% profits, like a lot of other day traders might claim to make, but I lock in consistent profits that I think really add up. And that's really just it. So thank you guys again so much for watching. The link is provided for you down below if you guys want to be a part of Tech Club Solutions. And if you guys enjoyed this video, we'd appreciate the thumbs up. If you guys want to subscribe and follow up on the video that we're going to be making for JNUG on seeing how it peaked out at, then go ahead and feel free to. But if not, I totally understand. In no way do I want to waste your guys' time if you guys don't see value in what it is that we're talking about. But I did make one last video, and it was how to make $100,000. And it was a video because of 2016. I ended up closing, almost doubling, my goal of making $100,000. And I feel like it's something that I get asked a lot on, how can I achieve this goal? But it's not really about the number that I talk about, but it's how to achieve your goal and how I personally achieved it. So it's just, again, sharing my best practice in effort to kind of assist you guys in achieving, whatever it is that you guys want to achieve. So thank you guys again. I hope you guys have an amazing day. And like always, let's make sure that we end the week on a green note. Take care, guys.